All right, so we've talked a little bit about pressure, and we're going to get in more into detail with pressure as we move along, but we want to talk a little bit now about temperature. And so temperature, like I say, standard temperature is 0 degrees Celsius. We're going to take a look at a couple of different scales. The Kelvin temperature scale, you've seen the K temperature scale. It's based on absolute zero. Absolute zero is 0K, which is, excuse me, negative 273 degrees Celsius. All right, so there is no temperature below this. Absolute zero is 0K or negative 273 degrees Celsius. The Kelvin temperature scale, notice, is based on zero. There is no number below that, so 0K. If you ever see a negative Kelvin, it is wrong. There's no possibility of having a negative Kelvin. All right, so that's your absolute zero. And what's important and what's cool about temperature in terms of Kelvin and Celsius is that they move in equal increments. If you go up 10 degrees in Kelvin, you're going up 10 degrees in Celsius. If you go up 100 degrees in Celsius, you go up 100 degrees in Kelvin as well. So I like to think of the temperature scales like this. I set my scale like this here, and notice that I have 0K or negative 273 degrees Celsius. And that's the absolute zero. Can't be lower than that. Absolute zero, by definition, is the point in which molecules, particles, would stop moving. It's something that we can't get to. In nature, the closest we get is about 3 degrees above. It's like 3 Kelvin. Seeing that is one of the best definitions and best ways of showing that there was a Big Bang. It's just basically the heat and temperature left over from the Big Bang. We can, in very controlled laboratory settings, get very, very close, or even closer than 3 degrees above absolute zero. We can get to like 0.0001 degree or so. But again, we can't get to that point where molecules were to stop moving. Anyhow, here's their equal increments. As you can see, if I go up 100 Kelvin, I'm going up 100 Celsius. Negative 273 to negative 173. If I go up 273, notice that I'm going up 273 with the Celsius as well. Same thing with the other one. If I go up 373, I'm going up 373. So it's important to see this, okay? The freezing point of water, okay? Freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius, and that's positive 273 Kelvin. All right. I'll put freezing point of water. Of course, this is the boiling point of water. Okay, and this is absolute zero. All right. Now, when I think about this, I think about conversions. You know, how can I go from Celsius to Kelvin? And here's what I think about. If I want to solve for Kelvin and I have degrees Celsius, so if I had negative 273, how would I get to Kelvin? Well, I add 273. Okay? Rather than memorizing a formula, I just remember that 0K is negative 273 degrees Celsius. And so if I had negative 273, notice that if I added 273, I'd get 0, which makes sense. So there's my formula for converting if I have Celsius and I want to solve for Kelvin. Vice versa, if I had Kelvin and I wanted to solve for Celsius, I would subtract 273. Notice if I had Kelvin, if I had 0K, and I wanted to get to Celsius, I would subtract 273. So here are your two conversions. Here are your two formulas if you want to think about it. And if you want to memorize two formulas, go right ahead, knock yourself out. But I just remember this one number, negative 273 and 0 degrees Celsius, and then I can make the formulas myself. All right? So I'm going to quickly on the next slide show a conversion. I think I'm going to do that before I pause it. I'll go ahead and do it real quick. Next slide, I'm just going to show a conversion. And do I have an example? I don't think I do. So let's say I have, and I'll write them again. Kelvin is equal to degrees Celsius plus 273. And so if I have, let's say, today's room temperature is about 25 degrees Celsius. What is that in Kelvin? Well, I simply would say 25 plus the 273 equals my Kelvin, which of course is 298 K. So 25 degrees Celsius is equal to 298 K. If I say we get a temperature of something, it's a really, really hot, it's 150 degrees Celsius. What is that in Kelvin? Well, Kelvin would be 150 plus the 273, whatever that math is, 423 K would be 150 degrees Celsius. All right, so there's your conversions. Obviously, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but if I had Kelvin, let's say a Kelvin temperature was 200 K, what is that in degrees Celsius? It would be a little bit different. It would be K minus the 273. So we'd go 200 minus 273, or we'd get negative 73 degrees Celsius is equal to 200 K. Those are your conversions, pretty straightforward.